Hello and welcome to Book Break for Greece Public Library for September 15th. I'm Kirstra. I'm one of the librarians here. I moderate our Pints and Prose book discussion group, and I am joined in person by Claire.
Yes, finally. I am Claire and I moderate As the Page Turns book club here at the library and also our historical fiction group on Facebook.
And we are super excited after like a year and a half of book breaks to be in one room recording Book Break.
Yes,
Yay!
yes. This is a milestone.
It is. We hope you're as excited as we are because we're pretty excited. So today we don't have a theme. We're just going to be rounding up some of our recent reads. Do you want to start, Claire?
Sure. This is kind of ironic. We begin at the end. It's my first book, but this is not the end. We have more books for you. So this one was recommended by a lot of my friends, had read it and said it was really good. It's about 30 years ago and it's set on a small California town of Cape Haven, and there has been a young girl that has died. So the bad thing is this group of friends, 15-year-old Walk had to give the testimony against his friend, and it's haunted him every day that he essentially put his friend Vincent in jail. So now we fast forward to 30 years and Vincent is getting released from prison. So the town is on edge, but no one more than a lady named Star Radley, who was good friends with both Vincent and Walk when they were younger. She's been struggling for years. She has an addiction problem. She has two children, 13-year-old Duchess and a young boy named Robin. And unfortunately, Duchess has been put in a position where she has to be responsible for her mom, her younger brother, and she is a self-proclaimed outlaw. So she kind of has a very fun, quirky personality. She's very blunt. She's very brash. She's also very loyal to those she loves. And she doesn't have a lot of faith in men. So when she sees some of the men in her town not treating her mother very well, she makes a decision that will haunt her and the rest of the family for the rest of their lives. And it just has repercussions. It's like throwing a rock into the water and watching it all. Things are not as they seem. The people are complex. So you don't have like good guys and bad guys. Everybody has something going on. So it's a very emotional story, pretty unforgettable. You know, a story about family versus your blood family, your friends, and a decision to finally trust people. In Duchess's case, let someone in to help her. It's very sad.
Okay.
There's a lot of sadness in this book, but I have to say, as far as a character study, it was excellent. So we begin at the end by Chris Whitaker was my first one.
Nice.
Yeah,
That sounds really good.
it was good.
Nice. So my first one is actually one that we both have read, but I get to talk. I just picked it first. And that is Getaway by Zoya Stage. So many of you may recognize the author's name. Zoya was our first Grease Reads author for her debut book, Baby Teeth. I think I also we did a spoiler special on Wonderland last summer, which was her second book. So this is Zoya's third book. And it's more of a straight thriller than the other two. So Baby Teeth was kind of like psychological thriller / horror. Wonderland was more horror. And this one is just more like a thriller. So our main characters are Imogen, Beck, and Tilda. Imogen and Beck are sisters, and Tilda is one of their friends from college. So this is a group that's been kind of tight since they were in college. And they have started to drift apart. We get hints that something happened between Imogen and Tilda that kind of soured their friendship. So Beck has organized like a getaway weekend or week, I guess, where they're all going to go backpacking through the Grand Canyon, which sounds like something I want to do. Is backpack through the Grand Canyon. So they go on this huge backpacking trip, and a couple of days in, they start to realize that some of their supplies are going missing, which can be a real problem when you're hiking in the backcountry and you don't have access to new water, new food, etc. So
they also found something that was mysterious.
indeed,
Yes.
yes, they did.
So
So I don't want to spoil anything that happens.
I'm zipping my mouth.
Indeed. But this was a really good thriller. I liked it a lot. It's definitely page turny. So you have like the group dynamics of the three women, and then there's this added pressure of like things are starting to go wrong externally as opposed to their group dynamic. And how are they going to rise to the occasion to deal with it? Are they going to be capable enough to see this through? There are some really sort of breathtaking descriptions of the Grand Canyon and some terrifying descriptions of like the trails that you have to hike to do this.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready for prime time with that backpacking trip.
No, I'm like a day hike kind of a person. I've embraced this about myself. I'm not a
half-day hike and a brewery type of person afterwards. So.
Absolutely. But I did love being a tourist and kind of along for the ride on a trip like this. And apparently the author did a lot of backpacking with her family growing up, and they did do at least 1 or 2 trips in the Grand Canyon. So she is speaking from experience, and you can tell, I think, like the descriptions are extremely vivid. So Getaway, thriller, Grand Canyon. So you've got scenery, you've got tension.
And definitely one for friendships and kind of all of that. It was my favorite of the 3 of hers that I read. So
yeah, I know you said that. I still think that I might like Wonderland better, but I know I'm an outlier on that one.
Well, we all like different things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. My next one is one of my book of the month clubs. It's Damnation Spring by Ash Davidson. This cover, when I saw that cover, it was beautiful. Like, I've got to have that. And also it kind of had a lot of ecological notes. It's a story set in 1977. And the main characters are Colleen and Rich Gunderson. And they are raising their young son, whose name is Chubb, which bugged me to no end for some reason.
I don't like
that. But Rich came from a long logging family, generations of logging on the Pacific coast. And he is much kind of older than Colleen. They met through like friends or her sister. Colleen is an amateur midwife, and Rich is a tree topper, which is the person that cuts down the very top of the tree. And when you're talking redwoods, it's a very dangerous job. So he's scaling trees that are hundreds of feet tall. And it's a job that both his father and grandfather did. And I believe his father died doing it. But so they both want a better future for their son. And they're kind of going in different directions. Rich actually takes all of their savings and he invests in a piece of land that still has redwoods that have not been felled. And he's convinced that this is going to be his payday to allow them to have a better life. Meanwhile, Colleen is desperate to have a second baby. She's been having a lot of miscarriages, and her most recent one was later term. So she's very upset. She's grieving. And also in her midwife practice, she's starting to see a lot of other people that are having issues. So she begins to research the use of the logging company's herbicides and finding out that there may be a connection. So, so here you have the women's rights kind of bothered me because Rich was able to take all of their joint savings and everything else and enter into this loan without Colleen even knowing. Oh, that was the other thing. He doesn't tell her that he's done this. So, and meanwhile, she meets up with someone from her high school and something maybe going on. So they both have secrets. But you get to meet many of the characters in this book, and you have the people that want to work, they want to provide for their families. This is what they've always done. This is tradition here, versus they call them the hippies and so forth that are coming in to protest the fact that they're destroying the land, and they're also buying up land for another national park. So just really, really interesting. I think it would make a great book club book because there's many different topics in which to discuss, all serious. Like I said, the only thing that some of the characterizations and bothered me, but so it wasn't like a 5-star read, and it's a little bit longer, you know, so you have to plod through some of the pages, but it was still a very good read, and I think it would make a great book club choice.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I just kept thinking tree hugger.
oh yeah, definitely.
Like
the tree
the original
huggers
tree
versus
huggers.
the loggers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nice. All right. I'm going to talk next about my nonfiction pick for this time, which is Broken by Jenny Lawson. This is Jenny Lawson's third book. Her first two were Let's Pretend This Never Happened and Furiously Happy. So she writes personal essays, basically. So it's a bunch of small chapters, which is as close to short stories as I tend to get. For some reason, I can do essays, but I have a hard time with short stories.
oh, every now and then I like a good short story collection.
So this is what I tend to go for if I want short things. And I listened to this one on audio, and it's narrated by the author, which I always think is fun because you get a little more of their personality.
Yeah.
I think especially when it's a memoir or personal stories.
Yeah.
But Jenny Lawson is, she's hysterical, first of all. Like, she's incredibly funny.
She has the taxidermied raccoon on the one book, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Her father was a taxidermist.
Yeah.
So she has a love for all things taxidermied. And you hear all about the like Salvation Army taxidermy that she finds, which I never see taxidermy when I'm at the Salvation Army, but you know,
Nope.
I also don't live in Texas.
Yeah.
Which probably makes a difference.
Yeah.
But she also talks very openly and honestly about her struggles with mental illness, anxiety and depression, and also with a lot of health problems. So she's got a few essays in this one that really tackle invisible disability head on. She suffers from rheumatoid arthritis, among other things, which attacks your nervous system and can be really debilitating, but from the outside, you don't look sick, right? So she talks a lot about that too. And just how she kind of balances like the funny, crazy in her life and the less fun things in her life. She has a husband named Victor who works from home, who shows up quite often in her essays, and their interactions are hysterical. There's actually one essay in this collection where she talks about like how you stay together for so long. I think they've been together for 20 or 25 years. And they're both kind of big, odd personalities. So that was fun. Like, she kind of pulls back. She's like, yes, I tell you the funny things, but like, this is all of the other stuff going on at the same time. So if you enjoy a personal essay with occasional appearances by taxidermied animals and otherwise, or if you're looking for something dealing with mental illness or physical illness, Jenny Lawson, highly recommend. I'd recommend any of her 3 books. I think the first one, Let's Pretend This Never Happened, is the funniest of the 3. It doesn't get quite so serious, but in her later 2 books, she's really started to talk a lot more openly about the struggles in her life, which I actually appreciate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My third book is going to be a shameful plug because this author is going to be visiting us, and it is The Girls in the Stilt House by Kelly Mustian. This one is set in 1920s Mississippi, and you know, one of the blurbs that came from the author is if you liked, you know, Where the Crawdads Sing, that this would be a great read for you. So we are going to be discussing this one in our historical fiction book club on Facebook. And then Wednesday, October 6th, the author is going to be visiting by Zoom and talking to us about her book. But let me tell you a little bit about the book. So we have two young women, one white, one black. Matilda Patterson is a colored sharecropper's daughter. She lives on the other side of the trace in Mississippi or Louisiana and dreams of having a better life. Her father, Dalton, works hard. He does what his boss tells him to do because he has no choice. He's trying to buy off his sharecrop, contract. So he's earning extra money by dealing with the area bootleggers. So it's illegal. They're trying not to get caught. And so there's a lot of different things going on there. So then we also have Ada. Ada is a young girl who has run off with a man and comes back to her father because he's decided to move on. He's a musician and she has to come back to the creepy swamp. It is Mississippi. So he traps animals for a living. His camp is disgusting and he's pretty abusive. So her mother died. So she's trying to, maintain some sense of home with him and trying to stay safe because he is anger. He drinks, he's angry. So there is a murder in this book that is going to, well, there's two actually, I believe, that bond these two girls together. So we have race relations, we have people that are dealt a bad hand that are trying to make lives for themselves. This is a debut novel. There are some other characters in here, like there's a midwife. So yeah, it was just really interesting to me. I enjoyed it because I like Southern fiction. I love historical fiction. So this pretty much had my name written all over it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with the author who grew up in this part of the country. She now lives in North Carolina. So yeah.
Now, when is the historical fiction book club meeting to discuss this one?
Actually, the day before the author visit.
Okay.
So that is going to be Tuesday, the 5th. And if you're not familiar with our historical fiction group, you can sit right in your house and type on your computer because I put questions up and then people answer and comment amongst each other. So it's all virtual. There's no Zoom involved. You can just join the group and go right to our Facebook page and find it and ask to join. So yeah, and then the author visit, you do sign up on our website on the calendar, or you can call us, and that way you'll get the Zoom link sent to you by email so you can join and talk to the author on Wednesday, October 6th.
Yeah. And if you haven't participated in any of our Zoom author visits, it's not just like watching a presentation. Often they will speak for a while, but you do have the opportunity to interact directly with the authors. Yeah. And the thing that I love about that, the kind of silver lining of the pandemic Zoom storm cloud, is that we have the opportunity to connect now with authors all over the country who we wouldn't otherwise be able to bring to you. Right. So that's very exciting for us.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me too.
My last one is actually a Stack of Shame book.
I thought so.
And it is my fantasy selection for this time, and that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. And I just love this cover so much. It's cool. Stunning. Yeah. Even if I wasn't interested in what the book was about, I would almost have had to pick it up and read it because of the cover. So this is a high fantasy set in kind of an alternate past. It's not strictly our world, but it's based on pre-Columbian mythology. So you've got Aztec, Inca, Mayan mythologies kind of all blended together to create this society.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I think as like a Northern white woman, I don't see that very often. No. Like the centering that perspective, like there's the, oh gosh, what was the movie with like the end of the world and the Mayans? Like, Anyway, I should look these things up before I start talking, but like you get kind of the crazy world is ending human sacrifice stuff, but you don't get like a full picture of these societies. And I'm not saying that this is all 100% historically accurate because it's not, it's a fantasy novel, but it's based there instead of being based on some like ancient Britain. Like,
normally all the fantasies are like Eastern Europe.
Exactly. Everybody's got a British accent and that is what it is. So this is the first book in a planned trilogy, which is exciting, although I'm not excited to have to wait for the next 2 books. But there's a lot of sort of political intrigue in the book. We have sun priests and religious factions and like people kind of dealing behind the scenes, trying to take power. So it's got a little bit of a Game of Thrones-y vibe if Game of Thrones were set in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. And they use cocoa beans as currency. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. So we've got like 4 different characters that we follow through this story, and she does leave it like right on a cliffhanger. Everything is leading up to this, an eclipse that happens on the solstice, like the winter solstice. So these were very solar focused societies, all of them, as far as I can tell. And so this eclipse and the solstice are both a huge deal. And for them to happen at the same time is like a major convergence. So everything is kind of leading up to this point, and the eclipse happens and then the book ends. So I'm gonna need the next installment stat. But this was one of the more different fantasies that I've read in a long time. And I really, really liked it. I haven't given you much of the plot, but really all you need to know is high fantasy, pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, and our motion sensor lights just went out because we've been sitting still, so that's fun. Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Pick it up for the cover and stay for the super interesting mythology. If you're a fantasy, if you're a fantasy reader, I really recommend it for something kind of totally different.
Well, you've got like a thriller, nonfiction, a fantasy. Yeah. And I've got my normal jam, which is mainly historical, but a lot of family secrets,
That's all right. I could have probably done just fantasy and science fiction. So I have to push myself a little bit out of my comfort zone.
I've been on a tear. So.
And that's okay. Yeah. Sometimes you go on a tear.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. So we would like to know what tear y'all have been on. What have you been reading? Have you read any of these? Have you read anything else really good lately? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you always with your opinions. Anything else from you, Claire?
Nope, just come to the author visit.
Yes. Yeah. Register for the author visit right on our website under events and calendar. You won't get the Zoom link unless you register.
Yes.
But that should be super interesting.
Yeah, I think it will. So, and next time, do we have a theme next time?
I think we do, but I don't want to say it because I'm not 100% sure that it's correct. I don't want to lead people down the wrong path, but I do think we have a theme picked for our next book break, which will be the beginning of October.
Yeah.
So enjoy the rest of your fall, the cooler weather, which just like a cup of coffee and a book.
Perfect.
What more could you want?
Yeah.
And let us know what you've been reading, and we will see you again in early October.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.